Before we dive in, if you'd like to support the channel, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really means a lot and helps us keep creating videos like this. Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever wondered why two people can look at the exact same situation, but see completely different things? One person sees problems. The other sees opportunities. One person sees risk. The other sees possibility. And strangely enough, this difference in perspective often determines who becomes wealthy and who stays stuck. Because the truth is this: rich people don't just have more money. They often see the world differently. And once you understand this shift in perspective, you begin to realize something powerful. Wealth doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in the way you look at life. Most people grow up believing that money is something you earn only through hard work. Work more hours, get a better job, hope for a raise. And while hard work is important, it's not the whole story. Because wealthy people tend to ask a very different question. Instead of asking, "How can I work harder?" they ask, "How can I make this work for me?" That single shift in thinking changes everything. Let's take a simple example. Imagine two people walking past the same empty building. Most people see an old abandoned place. Nothing special. But someone with an entrepreneurial mindset might see something completely different. A future coffee shop, a small business, a rental opportunity, or the beginning of something bigger. The building didn't change. The opportunity was always there. The only difference was the way they looked at it. And this is one of the biggest secrets of wealth. Rich people train themselves to look for opportunities where others see nothing. They constantly ask questions like, "What can this become? How can this be improved? Is there value here that others don't notice?" This habit slowly changes the way your brain works. Instead of automatically seeing limits, you begin to see possibilities. Another powerful difference is how wealthy people look at problems. Most people try to avoid problems, but wealthy people often look at problems and think something very different. They think, if this problem exists, someone is willing to pay for the solution. Every successful business in the world exists because it solved a problem. Transportation problems created ride-sharing companies. Communication problems created social media. Convenience problems created delivery services. So instead of complaining about problems, wealthy thinkers look for solutions. And solutions are where money is created. But perhaps the biggest shift of all is time. Most people look at money in the present moment. How much can I spend today? How much do I have right now? But wealthy people tend to look much further ahead. They think in years, sometimes even decades. They ask questions like, what will this decision mean for me 5 years from now? Will this choice move me closer to financial freedom or further away from it? This long-term thinking changes everyday decisions. Spending becomes more intentional. Investing becomes more natural. And slowly, small decisions begin shaping a completely different future. The truth is, seeing the world like wealthy people do isn't about being born rich. It's about learning to train your perspective, to notice opportunities, to think long-term, to look for solutions, and to ask better questions about the world around you. Because once you change the way you see things, you start making different decisions. And different decisions eventually create different results. So the next time you look at a problem, or an opportunity, or even a simple decision about money, pause for a moment and ask yourself a powerful question. How would a wealthy thinker see this situation? Because sometimes the first step toward wealth is simply learning to see the world differently. A lesson, a piece of information that moves them closer to a better decision. Almost every successful entrepreneur has failed many times. Businesses that didn't work, investments that went wrong, ideas that never succeeded. But instead of stopping, they adjusted. They learned, and they tried again with better knowledge. Over time, those lessons become incredibly valuable. There's also a subtle habit wealthy thinkers develop. They pay attention to value, not just price. Most people look at something and immediately ask, how much does this cost? But wealthy thinkers often ask a different question first. What value will this create? A cheap decision today can sometimes become an expensive mistake tomorrow. And sometimes a costly investment today can create enormous value in the future. This way of thinking changes the way people spend money. It changes how they invest in their skills, their education, their opportunities. And slowly, those decisions begin to shape a completely different path. And perhaps the most important shift of all is responsibility. Wealthy thinkers often believe something very simple. They believe they are responsible for improving their situation. Even when circumstances are difficult, even when things feel unfair, they focus on what they can control: their skills, their habits, their decisions, their mindset. Because the moment you take responsibility for your future, you gain the power to change it. So if you truly want to start seeing the world like wealthy people do, start with small mental shifts. Look for opportunities instead of limitations. Focus on long-term outcomes instead of short-term comfort. Invest in learning. Study problems. Search for solutions. And most importantly, ask better questions. Because the way you see the world determines the choices you make. And the choices you make shape the future you build. And maybe the most powerful realization of all is that wealthy thinking is not something you are born with. It's something you develop. One decision, one perspective, one habit at a time. And the moment you begin seeing life through that lens, you start noticing opportunities that were always there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows how to see them.